Okay, hello and welcome to this Cobra talk. My name is Lena and I work at Colcat Systems headquarters in Kungsbacka, Sweden. I work as a fire engineer, where my work is within training and method development, meaning that I delve into factual issues and how to evolve the cutting extrusion techniques.
Thanks, Lena. I'm Bernie. Work in the UK predominantly most of the time. I'm an ex-former firefighter. I now work for Cobra Colcat Systems, doing more strategic development, but around the training, but also around drawing in new customers and existing customers and getting people to make the best and most effective use of Cobra.
Nice. And today we're going to talk about, would you like to tell?
Yes, so today, Lana, we're going to talk about how Cobra can be used very effectively to prevent contamination of firefighters when they attend fires. We already know that there's a lot of information out there that says that the contaminants in smoke can cause long-term health issues, particularly for firefighters. And we're going to talk a little bit today about how Cobra can be used very effectively to reduce the possibility of that.
Yeah, and I should say that this is a short Cobra talk, so we won't be able to answer any questions today, but feel free to reach out. We will send you the details later. As a firefighter, you are exposed to a lot of hazardous substances and sort of immediate hazards, but also long-term hazards. Not only does the hazard challenge you physically, but also it challenges your physical endurance and recovery, and also fatigue your critical thinking and so on. And to top it off, firefighting as an occupancy is also it carries a severe long-term health risk, where including increased likelihood of cancer.
Yes.
Would you like to tell me a little bit about what the World Health Organization has come across lately?
So the World Health Organization has a body, IARC, which is around, I think it's the International Agency for Research on Cancer. So they look at cancers in various societal groups and whether some groups are more susceptible to cancers than others. And what they've discovered is a clear link to firefighting and instances of cancer in firefighters, in humans, in other words, in firefighters that undertake those duties. And that's 2022, so a couple of years ago now. The World Health Organization stated there's a clear causal link between firefighting and certain types of cancer. That won't be all types, but there are certain types that are particularly associated with firefighting and being contaminated at the scene of a fire.
How can contamination occur to a firefighter? When does it occur? During and after, or even before a fire?
Can be all three. Can be, Lana. So I'm going to take you back a little bit in time, I guess, when I'm answering this. So I was in the fire service a very, very long time ago, as you can probably tell. And it was back then, back in the 1980s, it was really macho and fashionable for us to walk around with dirty fire kit. It showed that you were a firefighter, you'd been to fires, therefore you were experienced, and it gave you, we thought, some kind of status. And I was just as bad as everyone else. I had dirty fire kit until my boss told me to go and clean it off because it just looked awful. We all did it back in the day, and the room where we stored our fire kit smelt of smoke continuously because we were very busy back then. So there was always one of the teams, one of the watchers on duty would always have had a fire recently. There would always be smelly, smoky fire kit, and you could always smell it. That's what we now know, is that was contamination. If you can smell the smoke, and we know that some of the contaminants you can't see and you can't smell, but the ones you can smell are clearly just as dangerous and are just as likely to cause long-term health effects. And we're now realising that actually you need to keep your fire kit clean, and you need to be as clean from contaminant as possible before you go to a fire. And then once you've been to the fire and afterwards, it's about how you clean yourself off, clean your kit off to make sure that you're not spreading any contamination wider to anyone else you come into contact with, and of course that includes your families. So we've learned a lot over the years, and we realise now it's not so macho to go running into a building that's on fire. It sounds great. Actually, the modern day firefighters are thinking more about actually what am I actually going into, and that's really important.
So I would say also that the contamination, it begins, if not before, but as soon as you arrive to the fire scene, we have these toxic particles that burn, and the products that the fire produces from plastics and woods and everything that's within the compartment, really, that produces toxic and hazardous particles that sticks to our skin, and we even inhale it, even though we have our breathing apparatus on. We still, some slips in, and we do inhale toxic particles that sticks to us. You in England, you have some mitigation strategy. I know you have like shower within the hour. Can you tell us something more about the mitigation strategy?
Sure. So we focused in the UK very much on after the incident. So we sort of almost take it for granted firefighters are going to go into that environment in the first place. And I should say as well that this isn't, we shouldn't just think about it in terms of building fires. Contaminant is present at any fire, whether that's wildfire outside, cars in the open air. Obviously, if it's in the open air, it's a bit more diluted, but there's still contaminant. But when you're in a house and you're in a compartment, I think you're now more exposed to quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Quite strong mixtures of contaminants. So we focus in the UK on, you've always got to go in that compartment, deal with that fire. Therefore, we need to worry about when you come out. So many fire services now have what they call a clean cab policy. So when you've finished at the fire, you take your fire kit off, you put it in laundry bags, seal those, they go away to laundry. When you get back to the station, you shower, and you have a proper shower within an hour of having come out of the scene, and you clean off all of the kit that may have contaminant on. So our whole mitigation at the moment is based on you will get contaminated, and you therefore need to clean yourself off fully. For more senior people, so people, when I was last in the fire service, I used to put my fire kit in the back of my car, which meant that, and very often my children would say that they could smell smoke in the car. And they were very young at the time, so unwittingly I exposed them to contaminants. So clearly, for whether you're a firefighter or a fire appliance, or you're a senior person, because back then I wasn't going into the compartment, but my uniform still smelled. Therefore, if you can smell that on your fire kit, you need to bag your fire kit up and not put it in the cab where you are, or indeed in your own car, where you're now breathing in that contaminant in quite a contained environment. So that's really where we are in the UK. We're focusing on post-incident rather than looking at before and during.
Absolutely. And we have Cold Cut Systems. We focus on what a firefighter, or we as a firefighter, what can we do during the actual incident, and how can we fight fires? Maybe a smarter way, considering contaminants and what we expose ourselves to. So we conducted last year a comparison between so to say a normal BA attack.
Yes.
You enter with the wind in your back, your left hand in the wall, and searching the area. And And what you enter then is of quite bad visibility, with smoke, toxic smoke, and a hot area, a hot compartment. So we compared that regular BA attack to our SAVE tactic. It stands for scan. Scan the area for hotspots, and sort of the regular search you do at arrival. Attack with Cobra, with the cutting extinguisher. Ventilate, you open up and you ventilate the now lower temperature and the smoke, and then you enter. So that's a quick recap on what we did. So we compared those two kinds of tactics, and we compared how much contaminants were attached to a cotton fabric attached to the garment.
Yeah.
So what we found out was that we did do some sort of, not to say wrongs, but we could have done better at. So we did 2 tests. The outcome from the first test was that we had we were too eager to get in.
Yeah.
So we did not ventilate the compartment or the area for long enough. So, but we had the opposite was that we did lower the temperature. So we entered a sort of cooler compartment, but the visibility wasn't quite there. So those two, that comparison between the BA attack and the SAVE attack from that time was pretty similar. We had similar subjects or topics attached to our cotton fabrics, which were scanned by a third party organization. So we took the test later on, and this time we did the same thing. We had the same materials into the fire, like wood pallets and a bit of plastic to get that nasty smoke. And we fired it up to the same temperatures, did the whole BA attack again, and then we entered with the scan tactics as well. And this time we ventilated the compartment for about 1.5 minutes, I believe, to make sure that all the gas was out, all the smoke, was out. And we entered and extinguished the initial fire, as we did with the BA attack, also. And those two, so if you follow the same tactic, as we recommend you to do, like scan the area, attack with Cobra, ventilate the area, and then enter. Then the result was that we had a minimum next to non-contaminants on our garment compared to the BA attack, where we had PAH and other toxic contaminants. And we did write a report, I should say, about this. So if you like more information on it, you can find the report on our website and read more, digest more about these toxic hazardous topics. But that's one way to mitigate the risk of contamination on the scene, along with the mitigation risk when you go home.
So what you're talking about there, Lana, is eliminating the exposure in the first place. Well, not necessarily eliminating, but certainly seriously reducing the amount of exposure to contaminants. Because those PAHs, I think you said earlier, they're like things like plastics and wood. So if you're not going in that compartment in the first place, it makes sense, I guess, that you're not going to have so much contaminant, hopefully, on you, as long as you follow those safe tactics and do the ventilation as well.
Definitely. And you also, you lower the risk of all these, when you expose yourself to immense heat as well.
Yes.
As you say, allows you to lower the temperature before you enter. You get none of that heat issues as well.
That's interesting. It's separate from contaminant, but I understand that both American and British Heart Foundation, in other words, organisations that look at heart disease and heart related, have said that firefighting, because you're going into a very, very hot environment, And naturally your heart rate will be up because the adrenaline's flowing, you're doing something, very dangerous. But actually that can lead to heart problems and can lead to your blood thickening in the veins and causing you heart problems. So again, another long term, although it's separate from the contamination. And what I think, Lana, is probably that because you're going into that very hot environment in your PPE, you're also sweating, and that probably is helping the absorption through your skin, I guess.
Definitely.
Well, I think there's a number of things, Lana, that crews can do with Cobra. So using Cobra, I've often heard people say, well, we don't know if there's someone in the premises or not. I think that's down to information gathering. And I think I talked earlier about the thinking firefighter, and back in my day, there was a huge emphasis on getting to the fire compartment as quickly as possible, which sometimes meant just running out the hose, putting your breathing apparatus on and going straight in. I was taught to look up at the building and try and gauge what was going on. We didn't have thermal image cameras back in at that time. So 9 times out of 10, it was through the front door into the building, into the fire compartment. And sometimes that meant you're attacking the fire before you've actually prepared yourself for what you think you're walking into. And that's where some of that recognition, prime decision making, which is sometimes talked about, where you just think, this tactic worked, I'm going to keep using this tactic. I think today's thinking firefighters using the thermal image cameras, as you said earlier, the scan part. So you're not just using the thermal image camera, you're maybe asking whoever lives there, the occupant or the people who work there or who were last in the room, what's happening, what's alight, what's going on, where's the fire, where's the quickest route. And then you can prepare. And if that takes a couple of minutes, actually, number one, you're keeping yourself safe. Number two, you're probably going to be more effective as a firefighter because you're now thinking about where's the best point of attack. And because Cobra can be used from outside, you increase the possibilities for where you can attack from all sorts. As long as you can get that water mist into the compartment where the fire is, you're going to do some good. And that's the culture change, I think, is around you don't have to be in the room where the fire is getting contaminated. You can be safely outside. One of the other little spin-offs from that is actually if you're in let's suppose the fire is in a block of flats. As soon as you open that front door, the smoke's going to come out. If you don't have to open the front door, if you can use Cobra and suppress the fire and hopefully get it right down to lower than 100 degrees. Yes, some smoke will come out when you open the door, but with the fan as well, you're probably reducing the contaminant for everyone else in that building, which can only be a good thing.
Definitely. I would like to talk about leadership role. What's the leader's role in this, keeping his or her crew out of contamination? How can we change the thinking of the leader?
That's a really good point, Lana. And for me, the leader's number one duty is to keep their crew safe. Because if the crew aren't safe, they're not going to be able to keep the public safe. So your number one duty should always be, your priority is keeping your crew safe, as safe as possible, knowing they're going to do something hazardous. The leadership role for me is about stopping and thinking. You don't have to run into a building and do everything really, really quickly. Yes, if someone's involved and there's a rescue, then obviously time is important then. But they're relatively limited number of incidents like that. And for the rest of the time, the leader's job is, in my view, to take overall view of the incident, look at it, size it up, and then think about how can I safely deploy my crews to best effect? And how can I use the kit that I've got, hopefully including Cobra, to best effect on this building and keep my firefighters safe? I'm of an age now where I'm seeing a lot of my former colleagues have either got cancer and are receiving treatment or sadly have died. And it's quite a sobering moment for me to think about what might have been if we'd maybe done things differently back in the day. Well, now we have a chance to change. Now we have a chance to do things differently. And I hope leaders listening to this will take that opportunity and just think about not just the immediate safety of their crews, but the long-term health and safety and welfare of the crews and their families.
So this is a tough one, but talking about standard operating procedures and what's in your spine to do, arriving at the scene where there's a family outside, there's a full fire, their house is on fire, all the memories. How can you just take a moment, think of what would be the best procedure? How could you step out of that recognition prime decision making? I know that's a really tough question, but do you have any suggestions?
Two tips from me. I got this from a military. Number one, walk slowly. That sounds really what? But actually, all the time you're walking, you are looking, you are gathering facts. If you come straight out of the fire appliance or whatever you've gone to the fire in, and you're running towards a fire and you're beginning to shout orders, etc., your own adrenaline's running, you're not necessarily going to be thinking clearly about what's going on, and you're not really going to be thinking about. So my first tip would be just slow things down a bit, slow yourself down. When you talk to the public, if that family is outside, talk slowly, talk calmly, talk to them about where was the fire, what's the light, where's the best place for us to get to that. Let them tell you stuff, get them involved. While they're doing that, your crews, hopefully you'll have pre-planned with your crews on the route. Actually, I want one of you to take a thermal image camera. I want some of you getting BA and get Cobra ready. So the crews are all doing things. The public can see everyone's working, they're doing something, but you're just slowing that pace down a bit and you're giving yourself a bit of time to think about what's best. And you're giving yourself a bit of time to think, what can I see in front of me? Because we've not talked today about things like flashover and backdraft. It's not what this webinar is about. But a good, well-trained firefighter and a good, well-trained officer will see the signs and think, there's blackened glass there, it's cracked, but there's not much fire coming out. There's potential there for backdraft and flashover because we've now got a contained fire. Or I can see the fire's coming out, there's flames coming out of the window, I've got a ventilated fire here. You're already gauging some information for yourself that will help keep your crew safe. And the more we can get people to slow down, think about what's in front of them, think about the cues that they're getting from the fire itself and the people from the building, the safer we're going to be and the safer our firefighters are going to be.
Good tips. Is there anything you would like to talk about?
Safety of firefighters is a big one for me, Lana. All sorts of reasons. I had a long service, over 30 years service in the fire brigade in London, and I saw a lot of great things. I also saw a lot of awful things. I'm passionate about the safety of firefighters. I want to see our firefighters live long and healthy lives with their families. So for me, this is just part of that. Firefighting is a dangerous job. We all accept that. But it doesn't have to be too dangerous. If you can put into practice your training, if you can put into practice what you learn from others, and you learn from every incident, you're going to be a better firefighter. And do you know what? If you're a better firefighter, if you're more effective at what you do, your public are going to be safer. And if you're using your kit well, some of the best incidents I can recall are ones where we didn't just put the fire out, we saved property. We didn't just let the property burn out, we were effective and we saved property. There's no reason why a thinking firefighter can't do exactly that. Do their job and save people's property and keep our communities thriving.
Very good. So to wrap it up, is that we today talked about the World Health Organization's how they changed from Group 2B. I don't think you ever mentioned the 2B into 1.
To Group 1 now.
Yeah, so 2B would be possibly carcinogenic to human beings, whereas the firefighting as an occupation now is in group number one, it is carcinogenic to humans. It's scientifically proved that it is. And we've been talking about how to mitigate the contamination, the risk of contamination on a fire scene during and after, and also how to shift the culture within the organization, because that's really a tough nut to change a standard operating procedure. What's in your style? What have you always been doing? And that seems to have been working. But now we have to look what's working and what's not working regarding contamination.
So
I say thank you, Bernie.
Thank you, Lana. Thanks for the work you've done, because actually that research could just save lives. I hope so.
Perfect. Thank you.